Hey everybody, it's Kennedy
And Dylan.
back with another Mindful Moments at Marian episode. It is episode
Six.
six,
Yes.
yes. And today we have a special guest. We're interviewing Sister Judine. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Sister Judine Hilbing, and I've been at Marian Catholic for 17 years now. 8 of those years I served as president, and now I'm serving as the director of scholarships and tuition assistance.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna use this episode really just to get to know Sister Judine on a deeper level because I'm sure you guys all know her as the woman who gives you your money so you're able to come to the school, right? But we want to get to know her more personally. So, Sister Judine, outside of your work at Marian and your work through God, what do you like to do during your free time?
Well, that has changed over the years because now I'm 81 years old. And when I was young, I used to do things like bicycle riding and go sailing and all kinds of things, skiing, things that were a lot more active and fun. As you get older, you have to change and adapt and be flexible. So now I would say that the things I enjoy would be reading, nature, walking at the beach. I still bicycle ride. That's still good. I still like to do that. And going out to eat with good friends, especially just a one-on-one conversation, just have a relaxing evening with a good friend, going out for dinner, and reading, of course, always.
Are you in the middle of a book right now?
I just finished a very good one. It's called America's First Daughter, and it's the daughter of Thomas Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting because it really talks about a lot of her awakening to social justice issues. Because as we know, Thomas Jefferson had some viewpoints that not everybody agreed with and had some that were very good, but she came to an awakening of what was socially justice.
That's very eye-opening. Thank you.
Since you told us about what you like to do when you were younger, how was it growing up? Where did you come from? What was your backstory?
I grew up in Quincy, Illinois, Midwest town in the Midwest here in the United States. And I grew up right after World War II. And so that was, for many people, kind of a calm and good time of life. Things were simple. At least we thought they were simple. We didn't know the bigger world, the bigger nation. But for us in the Midwest, in a small town, life was pretty good after World War II. Everybody was happy that the war was over. A lot of inventions came. A lot of the war technology was converted for residential use, and we had a good time. So this growing up in the 50s and 60s was fun.
So now that we're talking about adapting, what was there a moment that made you decide to be a sister or really want to?
I don't think there was ever just one moment. When I was growing up, it was in 1961 when I graduated from high school, and it was a good time. And a lot of people, because they felt good about their country and their church, it was very easy to be proud of your country and your church in 1961. The Peace Corps had just begun. Lots of religious, both priests and sisters were entering religious life. And it was just a time in which everybody kind of wanted to give back. We knew how successful Eisenhower had been in the war, and then John Kennedy came in with all kinds of fresh new ideas and the Peace Corps, and it was just people wanted to be of service. And just like the two of you are wanting to be of service in many, many ways at Marian Catholic. And so it was just kind of leaning toward that way. I think also I wanted to be a teacher, and it was kind of the fast track to being a teacher. I was 19 years old and already had 57 second graders when I was 19 years old. It was it was the fast track to being a teacher, and I enjoyed it. And so it just kind of happened. Although I would say that I always said to my mother, I wish I had two lives because I really wanted to marry my high school boyfriend and I wanted to come to the convent, and I had to choose. So that was the defining moment of actually trying to choose between marrying the person I loved and coming to the convent. So that was tough.
Wait, that's actually so heartbreaking. Well, it's not heartbreaking because obviously you got a great life out of it. But how was your reaction to that? And how was his reaction? How did you handle that whole situation, having to leave the person you were in love with?
Well, we never really broke up. We just said goodbye because I did keep in contact with him. He married, and he is deceased now. But we would keep in contact every so often. He made a very, very good friend, a very good person, and a very good friend.
That's so sweet. I love that story.
So you mentioned after the war there was a new sense of peace. to this day, how do you find peace through God when life seems to get really chaotic or unorganized?
You have to look for it harder today, don't you? I think in many ways we have to look harder for that peace, because there is so much going on in our world today that can cause anxiety and can cause fear and all kinds of things happening. And so I find peace because I know that God is in me, not just around me. I don't think of God up in heaven. I don't think of God out there. I think of God inside of each individual person. And when we know that God is inside of us, we can just turn to that strength whenever we feel we need it.
Yeah.
And I try to find quiet moments. I work that into my schedule to make quiet moments when I can make that happen.
I think it is very calming to know that like God does make us in the image of Him. We're made to be imperfected. We're made to have these things to make us stronger and to really strive for a relationship with God, because without these, we can just say, oh, we have a perfect life. We don't need this. We don't need a relationship. But I think that's a really vital part to getting closer to God and really needing that relationship.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Where would you see yourself if you hadn't become a sister? Like, what were your other options?
I think I would have still been a teacher. I could see that I would have been an elementary Catholic school teacher, because I always wanted to be a teacher. In high school, I was the president of the Future Teachers Club, and I would teach religious ed on the weekend to one of the small parishes, and I used to help the sisters after school. And it was just like I wanted to be in a classroom, and so I think I would still have been a teacher. Now, I also wanted to get married, so I had those two things, and so I really admire our teachers who are both parents and teachers. I'm not sure I would have handled having two things at once, because it's a very stressful day, I think, for some of the teachers to teach all day long and then go home and take care of a family. So again, I come back to, for me, it was probably making a choice, one or the other. Maybe I could have done both, but maybe that would have been challenging.
That's cute. I like that. Okay, so how did you end up at Marian? What stood out to you about this school?
I was asked to come by our congregation. I had been an elementary school teacher and principal for my entire career. So elementary school is probably where I'm much more comfortable. It's where that was what I was trained to do and what I was doing. Our congregation asked if I would do it. And of course, it's if you are committed to your faith and committed to your vocation, you come when you are called. And I was called and I came.
Do you think that God called you to Marian for a reason?
Probably, because I see that when we are faithful to our commitment as religious and we do what we're asked to do, there's a reason for it.
What is your favorite part of your involvement here?
I would say I have the most involvement with parents, because they're the ones who are seeking funding so that their children can come to Marian Catholic. And so I have a lot of communication with them, written communication, telephone communication, volunteer service, in many ways with the parents. I probably have more communication with parents even than with the students. With the students, I love coming to the activities. I love coming to the things that you do, like when we had the pep rally the other day, we had the basketball game on Saturday, coming to events. I'm not in the classroom, so I don't have that day-to-day interaction with the students, but I love coming to the events.
How did you feel at the pep rally when the freshmen actually beat the seniors?
I just cheered. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I could not believe that ball went into the basket. It was pretty fun.
For reference, it was like over a half-court shot, correct?
Yeah.
It was
yes,
like
absolutely.
a three-quarter shot. It was very impressive.
They said everybody was running through the halls afterwards because of how chaotic it was.
Yes.
It just sounded so hilarious. I wish I was there to see it.
It's very peppy.
And then it made me wonder if the staff truly did forfeit because of time, or if they forfeited because that was a good moment to end on. Nobody wanted to bring that moment down. It was cool for everybody.
Yes.
Did you play any sports growing up, or what was your favorite activity to do when you were younger?
I didn't play any. I did intramural, but I wasn't on a varsity team. But I used to go horseback riding, sled riding. We lived on the river, boat riding. We lived on the Mississippi, Quincy is right on the Mississippi River, so a lot of boat riding and just fun things. A lot of outdoor things, hiking, fishing. Quincy is a small city, not really a small town, but a small city. So you could get around easily. There were a lot of things to do, and it was fun.
That sounds fun. I love that. I still go bike riding to this day. Like when I didn't have my car, we used to bike ride everywhere around the neighborhood. Like my parents wouldn't even call to check us. They just knew we were all together, and that was all that really mattered to them.
Yes, going off with your friends for the day and biking is fun.
I have a question more on the serious matter, I guess. It's kind of like interrelating mental health and religion. How do you think a strong relationship with God can help through things such as anxiety, stress, and even depression?
It is essential. For me, it's essential. It's, again, knowing that the Spirit lives within us, that we can turn to that Spirit whenever we need it. And it's just the fastest way for me to bring myself back to calmness if anything is bothering me. And sometimes things do. I mean, obviously, we all have times when things are difficult. And just being able to turn to know that God is supporting us and with us.
I've always, like, I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but like my biggest thing is, like, I think I'm a very consistent person, but it's hard being in something consistent but still being in an inconsistent world, and kind of knowing that God is always there. It's always consistent. There's not going to be any broken relationships, and even if you feel that way, you can fix it. It's a very codependent activity, but not activity. It's just a very reliant relationship, and I think that's what gets people through a lot, and I think that's beautiful.
Because even when we do things to break the relationship, God never does.
Yes.
So God's always going to be there.
I think that's something I've learned too, that even if I stray away from God, he's always going to be there. Like he's just always calling back to you. Even if you feel distant from him, he's always there in the back. Well, not even in the back. He'll stand right in front of you, even if you don't see him. But I just love that relationship that I have with him. And I think anybody who also has a relationship with God can say the same.
So you said earlier how you grew up in a world where there were many sisters and priests, and you've gotten to experience that. How do you think a strong sisterhood really strengthens community?
There are fewer and fewer sisters and priests today. And as your numbers get smaller, you have to make your connections stronger. And so it used to be when I first came in, there were 600 Springfield Dominican sisters. Now we have like 120. So the numbers just keep going down. So you kind of branch out and reach out and strengthen relationships with others. Currently, I live in a convent where there are 4 different congregations and there are 4 different lands of origin. So I live with a Franciscan sister from Vietnam, a Peruvian sister who's my own congregation, and then one from Indiana who's a sister of Providence, and then a sister who's from Mexico, but from a different Dominican congregation. So we're living in a situation where there are 5 of us from 4 cultures and 4 religious congregations. And so you reach out and find other groups and that strengthens our relationship, because otherwise we're getting smaller and smaller. But if you reach out and join with others, then you can, it strengthens everything about the experience.
What does the regular day in the life look like as a sister or with your sisters at the convent?
Because we all have different jobs and go different directions, ours is not typical at all. Because 2 teach at the university level, and 1 is going to the university, and 1 is the assistant to the president of Catholic Theological Union. Actually, they're all connected with Catholic Theological Union. I'm the only one who's not. So we all have different schedules and we have different responsibilities. And so our day-to-day is that everybody does what they need to do, and we're intentional about coming together for prayers and meals. Because the rest of the day is pretty much, I get up, travel, and come to Marian Catholic. And at the end of the day, I like to make sure that I'm home by 5 o'clock, because at 6 we have dinner. And it's always nice that time when you talk about finding space and peace. I like to have an hour that I just can be on my own, because you come from a busy work day, and then you go to community events, and that in between time where I just put on the Unrush Hour with Candace Agree for WFMT and just listen to classical music. And it's my own space, my space with God, my space to let go of the current day and get ready for the next day and just find that peaceful moment.
I think one of the things that a lot of like people my age, my friends, always come to me, not even come to me for, but they're always like, I don't know how to cope with things, and I don't know how to handle my stress or anxiety or just find moments to myself. And kind of like what you said, like you're advocating for that.
Mhm.
Find God, listen to music, do something that you truly enjoy. And I think that's something that I always try to encourage. It honestly doesn't always work out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's because people don't try it. Like they just kind of look at it, or they look at people who do it and they're like, that doesn't work, or I don't think that would work for me. But I don't think people truly know until they really experience it and like feel the effects of it.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Okay. Is there a certain Bible verse that speaks volumes to you? Like maybe your favorite verse? If so, which one is it, and how does it speak volumes to you?
I'm not going to say that it's my favorite, but it's the one that I say the most frequently because I have a plaque as I'm leaving my room every morning, and it's Micah chapter 6, verse 8, in which God only asks three things of us: to act justly, to love with kindness, and to walk humbly with Him.
I forgot my verse. I always forget. It's like Proverbs 3 verse 5 through 8. I think it's trust the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite Bible verse, and I love to live by that because sometimes you get lost and it's like you just want to trust yourself. You're like, oh, I got it, I have this plan, but the plan's not always going to work out how you want it. Obviously God has his own plan that's going to always come into play, and I always have to remember that because when things don't go my way, God's got it, and I always love to keep that in the back of my mind.
My favorite Bible verse is actually on my home screen. Let me read it. It is from Isaiah 43, verse 2, and it is, when you walk through the waters, I shall be with you.
Mm.
It always lets me know that I'm not alone and that I should be advocating for people that do feel alone. I should always just try to create my best sense of community with others and just really bond with others.
Okay, and this is our last question before we get off on our random tangents, because you know we will. If you were to share any general advice that the entirety of the world should hear, what would it be?
Just be kind, look for peace, think about others before yourself. Just if all of us did that more often, just not just think of ourselves, but think of the common good. Just be kind. That's the most important thing. If everybody in the world did that, we wouldn't have any problems, would we?
You're so right. Yes. Kindness is a virtue, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Then I think everyone needs to follow it because we all forget a little sometimes why we were put here in the first place. Mm-hmm. So be kind to your peers, be kind to the people around you,
yes,
and live a good life. I think that's the basis to it.
And be kind to yourself, because
yes,
if you are not kind to yourself, it makes it harder to be kind with others.
Mm-hmm.
That's very vital. Very vital.
What would be your tips to not be distracted when you're trying to read through the entire Bible? Because I seem to always get stuck at Genesis and I haven't gotten past that, and I just don't know how to discipline myself to actually sit and read my Bible every single day.
I probably wouldn't advocate for reading the whole Bible cover to cover. I think the Bible probably speaks to us better if we find, you both mentioned beautiful verses that speak to you. And sometimes just finding the verse that is the most important or sections of it that means something to us. But reading it cover to cover, I'm not sure that that's necessary. For me, it would not be necessary. For some, it might be. But just finding parts of the Bible that really help us to be better people. And so I would probably tend a lot toward the New Testament because the actions and the words of Jesus Christ are usually pretty powerful.
Okay, guys, little PS. I'm so sorry that we have not posted in so long.
It's been busy, I promise.
It's been very busy, but we have a schedule where we are going to be consistent. I promise you. So we will be back on the 17th or 18th. Yes. So look for that. It's going to be moments in relations, right? Yes, I'm very excited for that. So get excited.
So as we close, we'd again love to thank Sister Judine for coming on the podcast with us. And the quote of today was her Bible verse, Micah 6, verse 8. You want to say it one more time for us?
This is all that God asks of us, to act justly, to love with kindness, and to walk humbly with our God.
Micah 6, verse 8. Okay, guys, you ready? We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Love
you. Bye-bye.